In the plainest words, Oedipus is dead. But it isn't possible to do any justice to what happened in there, as briefly as that. I must tell the whole story.
He's dead at last, then? That long-suffering man?
Be quite sure about that. He's crossed over into death.
Did he suffer much, or did a god come for him?
It was strange and marvelous. You all saw how he left us, moving with difficulty in his age, but leading the way himself instead of being guided by one of his friends. He walked as far as that great crack in the earth, the bottomless cave, where the rocks seem like a stairway of bronze leading down into the dark. Nearby, there's a natural basin of rock at a place where many paths meet, where the celebrated pact between Theseus and Perithous to raid the underworld and kidnap Persephone is commemorated. Everything there is sacred. The great chasm itself, the basin, the rock of Thoricus, the hollow pear tree, and the ancient stone tomb. Surrounded by these mysteries, he sat down and quietly removed all his filthy and worn-out clothes. And then he spoke to his daughters. He asked them to fetch some pure running water from a stream somewhere so that he could wash himself and pour an offering to the spirits of the dead. Just nearby, there's a small hill sacred to Demeter, goddess of growing things, which is always fresh and well-watered. So they did as he asked, and soon brought the water and washed him with it and dressed him reverently and with all the ritual customary when a man is dying. And when he was satisfied that everything was done as it should be, he had his way in everything, they attended to his slightest whim, there was a low rumbling like thunder from the bowels of the earth. The girls were frightened and they cried and fell on their knees trembling, with their arms clasped round his knees. And they went on like that for some time, crying out loud and hugging themselves and swaying from side to side as if they were heartbroken. And when he heard them, he saw how upset they were. He lifted them up and put his arms round them and soothed them and said, "My dear daughters, today I must leave you, as all fathers must leave their children. Today is the end of me. My life is over, and your long penance is over too, the never-ending task of looking after me, which you performed without a complaint, although I know how irksome and tiring it was. One word, though, makes every burden lighter to bear, and that word is love. I have loved you more than any man has ever loved his children. You must carry on living your own lives without me now, and you must live them to the full. So, well, that's how it was. They all cried, and they all embraced each other, clinging so hard it seemed they could never be parted. But eventually they were. The crying stopped, and there was silence. And suddenly, there was an unearthly voice. A stomach-turning sound, so that you could see everyone trembling. Everyone's hair was standing on end. This voice, which was low and deep, and must have been the voice of a god, kept on repeating like a terrifying whisper. Oedipus, Oedipus, your life is over to the very hour, and now you linger too long, too long. And when Oedipus heard this unearthly summons, he asked for Theseus to come close to him, and when Theseus was by his side, he said, "My good friend, listen, I want you to promise and give your right hand on it, and my two daughters, you give him yours, that you'll never leave them to their own devices and the world's mercy. but do whatever seems best for them in the uncertain circumstances of the future. And Theseus, like the generous man he is, held back his tears and gave his oath to do everything the old man had asked. And when this promise was given, Oedipus groped for his girls with his blind hands, and when he'd got them, he held them tight and said, "Now, my girls, you must be brave as you were born to be. You must go away now and make no attempt to see things which are mysteries and are forbidden to you. Go quickly now. Theseus alone must stay to see what happens." We all heard that. And we were all in tears at his words. But then his daughters turned from him, and we turned with them and followed them away, leaving him there. But after a few moments, while we were walking, we looked round, and I can hardly believe it. The man was gone. He disappeared from the face of the earth. The king was there, standing on his own, holding his hand in front of his eyes as though he'd seen something appalling which no living man could bear to see. And then formally, he made short prayers to earth and to heaven, stooping and raising his hand. And that was the end of it. How Oedipus died and by what strange rites of passage he passed from this world into the dark, no man living can say except Theseus. There was no lightning from heaven struck him, and no tidal wave swept him out to sea, but he was taken for sure. Perhaps some kindly ghost from the dark regions came to show him the way. Or the earth silently opened and silently took him with love, like a child to its bosom. One thing is certain. There were no tears, no cries of pain or sound of suffering of any kind. A stranger, more wonderful death than anyone has experienced before. Oh, some of you won't believe me, I know. You'll say this is fantasy or a bad dream in broad daylight, straining all credibility. If that's what you think, that's your privilege. I saw what I saw. And there's nothing more I can say.